Hello and welcome to the second episode of Product and Design Series Season 2. Today we have a very special guest on the stream with us. His name is Atul, and he, you if you are here, you already know about him from all the posts that we have done, and we're going to have a good chat with him. He's going to share his process, his secrets of creating remarkable user experience throughout his journey, as well as some of the things we can expect from CRED's user experience. And how can you implement those things to build amazing user experience in your products, right? And this is going to be super fantastic to take notes. They ask a lot of questions because we are going to make use of all the things that he is going to share with us, and we are going to implement it. So he has got 7+ years of experience working in companies like CureFit, Topper, Jabong to boost their customer experience. And he has had a lot of fun in the journey, and we are going to learn things. With his motion design skills, he takes the delight to next level while boosting the usability of product. And there are a lot of secret recipes that he uses. Are you wondering what are these secret recipes? I definitely am very curious to learn these. But there is another reason to stick till the end. And that reason is Design Sundays is launching its mega giveaway 2022. 30 designers will win prizes worth 30,000 rupees, and we have handpicked these prizes to make your life easy as a designer. So while you create amazing stuff out there, we want to make sure that you have a lot of fun. And now, without further ado, let me invite Atul and Rakshita with me on the stage. Hey guys. Hey Atul, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm great.
How's it going?
I was just watching Wheel of Time with my girlfriend right now before this call.
Oh, that's
I
fun.
think I'm gonna go catch next episode after this. Found something interesting after a long time. So yeah.
So already he's sharing, what he watches in his free time. So you should find someone and you should watch it too. Okay, over to you guys. I'm gonna go backstage and just call me whenever you need me. Thank you.
Yeah, Atul, welcome. We're super delighted to have you on board, and I think we have a grand audience for your appearance here, and we are really excited to see what you have for us. So, over to you.
Thank you so much for having me over. Okay, so we should get started, right?
Sure.
Awesome. Let me just share my screen. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yep, it's visible.
Awesome. So, firstly, hello everyone. I hope it's going good. Now I understand that me motion design doesn't really qualify for your Sunday vibes, and honestly, complete respect for that. I wouldn't expect anything else. But yeah, keeping Sunday in mind, we're gonna keep it light. So normally I don't really believe in Gyan. I mean, I believe more in actionables, and I understand that you smart people with having so much context around your work and knowing so much of problem statements, with months invested into it. मैं कल का लड़का के 45 minutes में it's not going to solve your problems. So as much I would love to give actionables, it can't be done because it's different issues. You guys are solving at different product companies. So I would love to enable you guys in whatever I can. So I've put across some ideas together. They are on motion design, but it's nothing crazy new. It's just highlighting things that already exist around you. It's like that sound that's always around, but you only hear it when you really focus on it for a moment. So we're gonna put some of those points across. Now, without any further ado, let's start. Now, motion is basically visual storytelling, right? Now, if you think about any product that exists out there, it's basically a sequence of things, right? You onboard, you see a couple of splash screens, you go ahead, you put in your user inputs and everything. So in a way, great user experience design is more about telling a good story. And if you think about it, how have we observed stories in the past? It's usually the words we hear, like, our grandparents telling us stories. It's the word we read through books. I mean, when I say a word like big brown castle, you have a castle in your mind, but mine might be a bit different than yours. And then there were graphic novels which have both visuals and words, and then videos. Like, that came out to be the most efficient version of storytelling, because imagine GOT, whatever the person had in mind, when we see that in the series, it comes across pretty well. So motion, when executed well, is storytelling at its best. And for us designers, it helps us design the most immersive experiences. Now we have chat here, right? So can you guys name a product which reminds you of motion design, like where you feel it's done pretty well? Anything that comes to your mind?
Guys, feel free to ping in the chat and I'll read out your answers to Atul.
Oh yeah, I actually expect like answers. This has to be an interactive session. I'm not gonna talk to myself on Sunday, huh?
People are saying CRED, Swiggy, Dunzo, CRED. CRED. I think CRED is definitely on top of the list. And then we have Swiggy
That's
at
a
the
good thing.
second
That's a good
position.
thing.
Headspace, Paytm. And then we have
Nice.
Telegram,
See, Dunzo.
Palantir.
Dunzo does it pretty well. Thank God people
Yep,
came up with the Dunzo.
yep. Dunzo is catching up with CRED
Nice.
now.
Wait, there are people who are seeing Tesla Web. Nice. Good stuff. Uh, Great. Let's take it forward. Now, people who
There
must
are
be
people
wondering,
saying,
like, go
Atul,
on.
there are people saying Atul's
Sorry, go ahead.
website.
Oh my God, that's like embarrassment. Like, I think you can never push out your website and then be like, yes, it is it, because I think every time you push out, you're like, okay, I have to change this now. This has to look different. But thank you for just mentioning that. By the way, it's still under progress. There's something new coming up there. But yeah, I think we have a lot of names there. Now, before we move ahead with that, people must be wondering, like, Kaun hai is Sachin? Hi, I'm Atul Khola. I currently design experiences at CRED. And in the past, I've been lucky enough to design for products like Offer, Media.net, Topper, Japan, Tuvia. And I think, yeah, that is pretty much it, as I would call as my introduction. Moving on next. Now, this marriage of UX design and motion is relatively new. The roots of it come from Disney itself. These guys came up with principles that empowered those drawn characters to actually move and emote. And if you even till now, I think it started back in the days, but even till now, Disney, Pixar, all these guys are really killing at it. I recently saw this movie called Ron Got Wrong on Hotstar, and honestly, it's a delight to watch. Definitely to give it a watch. Okay, coming back to the subject. Now, as great as these principles were, they don't really address the interactive motion needs of modern interfaces that we have these days, right? So some random great person went like, you know what, कुछ benefit कर सकते हैं. And this person actually made a holistic adaptation of those principles for digital products. But before we start with those principles, we need to understand a couple of distinctions which are going to create a foundation for this discussion to move ahead. Now, first thing that you need to understand, and it's very crucial, is UI animation is different from motion design. Your animation is more of a cosmetic afterthought. It doesn't bear a lot on UX, except that it adds a lot of charm to it. But motion isn't ornamentation, it is behavior. And behavior can only help or hinder the user experience. Now, do you guys have any example of UI animation that you see around yourself? Like, I need some examples in the chat on products. I mean, you have seen something very similar to this on a product. What you see here as an example. Okay, I know that there's a YouTube 10-second delay in this. I was told about this yesterday from everyone, so I'm expecting answers will keep on coming. Yeah, now I can see it. Google Pay confetti, cat animation, payment on. Okay, nice. Zomato food cooking, which is exactly right. These badges that you're seeing here on the slide is something very similar to what Uber shows or actually showed back then when you had to give badges to your drivers. Now, at that point, it used to gain a lot of attention from users because it looks amazing, right? But at the same time, it is a part of your animation, it's not a part of motion design itself. If you have to think about an example, yes, GPay confetti is an example of your animation. But button hover, when you take your cursor over a button and when it changes that state, is something example of motion design itself. Now, next, there are two types of interactions. One is real time, and the other one is non real time. Now, real time interaction is more like immediate feedback. Its interface gets manipulated in real time and it responds instantly to input, as you can see in the example right here. Like when you change a value here, it shows there upfront. It's real time, right? At the same time, non real time interaction is where it happens after you've done the input and it is a resulting motion behavior to your inputs. Like when you tap somewhere and what it leads to is an example. Now, if you have to come for an example, something like map search, you say something like, I want to see, um, you know, India on Google Earth, and then it will do the whole thing where it rotates the whole globe and it will show you exactly where India is, and that whole transition happens after you've done the input. Whereas when you say that, okay, I have to go to Indranagar from Yamloor, it tells you every single next step as you're walking around. So that is more of a real time thing. So this is the difference between the two. Next is motion supports usability, and that usually happens in four ways. First, motion has to support usability in terms of expectation. Now, whenever a user interacts with UI elements, you need to understand what is the motion behavior that you expect to see. Like when you press a button, you expect it to get pressed. When you tap on a card, you expect it to go down a little, right? This kind of makes sense because this is where the motion meets your expectation. It doesn't cause confusion. Imagine if you had something very different. Have you seen those videos which go like the most satisfying videos where you see things getting sliced and everything? An example of it is right here. Now imagine instead of this, if you had to see when the knife touches the sausage, the knife kind of folds like a cloth. That would just make you go like, ugh. It's just something that you don't expect because you don't see it out there in the physical world. It is just not something that your brain is ready to expect. Now, when you create motion in a product, you have to work the same way. You have to create motion that aligns with what the users expect around in the physical world itself. Second, you have to understand that are your interaction producing consistency in terms of the motion behavior that exists. Now, we hear a lot about design system these days, right? Now, that is all around creating this visual consistency in your design systems. Like if your product has all round corners throughout, right? And then suddenly you have one pop-up that shows in sharp corners. Now, the user might not be able to pinpoint at it right then and there, but there is this subconscious that tells you that, hey, something changed. Something is not there, right? Or let's say your whole product is made in serif font. And then suddenly there is this sans serif font that comes in the middle. You're like, wait, this screen looks a bit different, right? Now, things like that are something that we associate to visual inconsistency, but the same thing happens when you don't produce motion consistency. Now, if you look at this above example, everything that you see here is in a very fluid nature. How radio buttons act, how the toggles behave, how the checkboxes behave. Now, this is an example of how consistent motion is in terms of the system that they have. Now, because visually, it just looks the same, right? Even if this happened in a more non-fluid manner. But still, like these are the things that you do. Now, you have to understand that people are investing their time, energy, bandwidth into this, right? And every time you fail to produce that continuity, you actually disrupt the seamlessness of the interface. And all of these things are absorbed subconsciously, so they might not be able to point to exactly what went wrong, but they will know. Third is motion needs a support narrative. Now, you have to understand, like, these interactions that we are creating for users and the motion behaviors that this interface actually produces, are they both aligned with each other? Like, you need to understand that, are they tied to a logical progression of these events? And is the narrative actually satisfying the user and our intent? Like, for example, look at this example. I ask you a question, and the user's intent is to fill the form and go ahead. And my intent is to get the answers and move ahead in the flow, right? Every time you give me an input, I automatically slide it to the next question. This is the perfect marriage between what I want and what the user wants to get to move ahead, right? And this is where motion pushes that narrative further. And this is where we understand, like, this is the perfect nirvana of where motion and interaction comes to. Now, this is an example where you need to understand how spatial, aesthetic, and hierarchical attributes of UI elements, they relate to each other and how they influence the user's decision making. Like, yahan pe when you add any input, it has a direct impact on what happens to the image on the top. Now, this is something that eventually the user has an immersive experience in terms of understanding how the UI is flowing. Every time he's changing an option, he sees something creating a different site out there. He knows there's a direct relation between what you're doing here and what's happening over. A, a simple onboarding flow like this would be so much more engaging and effortless as compared to a traditional one that just has inputs, enter this, enter that. And the user will feel, what, kya time waste ho raha hai, itna time lagana pad raha hai, I would want to do, like, why is this flow so long? But every time you do use motion to create something like this, it becomes fun. It becomes less cognitive load for the user. It becomes engaging. Now, this by far were few distinctions that we had to understand, right? By now, why it is important to have motion in terms of making a product more usable. And now it's time to give out these 12 motion design principles, which are also some kind of actionables that when you actually use these things in your product, it can actually make a more, usable and more engaging and more immersive product experience for your users. But as we're going through this, I will expect some examples for each and every of these principles that we're going to share. So actively suggest products where you have seen these. Awesome. First one, easing. Now, easing in itself is very simple, right? It mimics the way the real world objects accelerate and slow down. And imagine a car, right? When a car starts and you give it speed, it starts at a certain pace, and when you apply brake, it slows down either. It's always like this, right? Now, if you even try to imagine a motion where something starts at 90 kilometers per hour and stops right there, you can't even imagine it because it doesn't exist in the real world. And the same cannot exist in your products either. It always has to, relate to how things accelerate or slow down in the physical world, and that is what we call easing. Can you tell me a product where you have seen this?
Guys, feel free to comment in the chat and then we'll bring that out in the session. I think it's the 10-second delay. So people are saying scrolling in chat, Dunzo.
Nice. Now, that is actually true. Like, your scrolling behavior, no matter which app it is, all of these function on this principle easing. Like, every time you do a long scroll, it will start at a certain pace and then it will slowly slow down and get still at a certain point. And yes, anywhere that you see scrolling, let it be Dunzo, let it be Instagram photo filters, Spotify, all of these have this effect. Or someone said Furlenco looking at furniture. Nice. The next one is offset and delay. Now, one thing to understand is humans love grouping. Like हमें बहुत मजा आता है to group just things together. Like हमारे पास time था तो we grouped that into seconds, that into minutes, then into hours. Then we said, you know what, सुबह के कुछ घंटे we'll call it morning, दोपहर को noon, and then eventually night, and then we made months, years, weeks. Like we love grouping. It helps us with the perception of its core functionality itself. Now, offset and delay is basically helps in understanding hierarchy and communicates the relationship between product and user benefits. Like Abhi, in this particular example, you see how the first thing that appears there is this number. And as these different elements keep on stacking up, the number keeps moving too. It makes you understand that yes, this is the main product, or this is the main sum of everything that is going to get stacked below, and the motions are just the same. Every time there's a new product that is stacking up there, the value changes. Now, this is so much more easier to understand when you look at the screen versus imagine when if I started slapping complete screens together. You tapped on something, I completely slapped this 712 number with four different options right there, and then you have to look at it and try to understand what is the relationship between these UI elements and the number that you see सबसे ऊपर. Now, yeah, so this was offset and delay. Can you guys tell me any examples of it? And if you can't, this is homework.
I'm just waiting to see if some answers just pop in right now.
Someone said SSG coins,
Yep.
weather app. Kraken. Okay, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I think he's talking about some stock
Weather
market
change.
graphs. Yep. Weather widget.
Love the fact that people are financially so aware. Do a better job than me for sure. Well, simple. Web UI more than parallels animations. Great.
Yep.
Next, let's talk about parenting. Now, parenting is basically it links the properties of UI elements in a way that when the property changes in the parent, there is a property change in the child as well. And this establishes a relationship between UI elements and it helps you understand better how they are communicating with each other. Now, in this example, as you're changing the intensity of light, the light gets more vivid and less vivid based on that. I mean, yeah, there's a simple saturation difference that happens right there, right? Can you guys think of an example for this? I mean, and I think this is something that you see in social apps very often.
People are saying filters on Instagram. Of course,
That is
smart
true.
home system applications.
Yeah. I think the most like something that you use on a daily basis is your Instagram story filters. Every
Absolutely.
time you swipe into a new this thing, the whole effect of that filter is shown on the camera itself. So yeah, good one.
Definitely. I think in some
Fourth,
cases there are these templates as well, where you keep swiping and the templates keep getting updated. Even PPTs
yep,
are
yep.
really ramping up with this feature now.
Sorry, more of a Figma person. Haven't touched PPT in a long
There's
time. Don't intend to do the
corporate things
same.
you have to do on this side.
I remember I had to deal with PPT at one time and hated every single moment I did that. Never again in my life.
Definitely.
Okay, transformation. Right. Now, Transformation is basically when one UI element changes into another. And transformation is a pretty effective way to show users their status in relationship to a goal. In this example, as you can see, when someone starts saying, download, this whole progress will show how it's loading 10% and turn into a tick. Now, examples, I think this is something that people have seen literally in every other product that they use daily. So come on, I need a flood of answers for this one.
I'm expecting a lot of answers and examples from CRED here. So people are saying phone pay and like buttons on social media. Yep, GPay. Great example, guys. I think you're really paying attention to the session. That's awesome. Or Atul is a very great teacher.
Thank you so much for just pushing it in there. So,
Just slightly, nudging it in there.
believe what
Keep
she's
it
saying.
coming, guys. On Instagram while posting.
Yep. I think I order a lot of food every single day. So I think something that I see around every single time I use a Swiggy ka progress and tick thing. So like it will turn into that complete circle and it will go a tick. I think this transformation is something that by now is the most uh, used motion interaction that people have been using in every product. I think every time you place, let's say, an order for a stock, say like an order for food, like anything that is around placing orders or a successful interaction or transaction, I think everyone has cracked the tick thing at least. I think
Absolutely.
no one misses on that,
In fact, I
right?
feel feedback is also something where, Uber, Swiggy, Zomato, a lot of apps have really nailed it down. Where as soon as you start changing the rating, your emotions, emojis, or even colors, they gradually just transform it, and you feel like they're understanding what you're going through.
That is true. I think one of the first ones to do it was Swiggy with their
Yep.
rating system.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
emoji will go nuts the moment you go four and stuff.
Exactly.
Next is value change. Now, numbers exist around us in abundance, like your products like banking, fintech, e-commerce. Numbers are literally around there everywhere. Now, another thing about numbers is they have a tendency to change. And every time the value changes through motion, it suggests that this is of dynamic nature. It means that if you engage with it, it will change. Now, there are studies that show that without the willingness, without motion, the willingness to engage with these numbers decreases. Like imagine if you have invested your money on a trading platform, and every time that you see that number grow from 0 to 20, it makes you understand that yes, maybe if I invest more, if I invest in different places, this number changes. If you have invested in a more volatile market like crypto, and every time that number keeps on fluctuating, and I think crypto is an example where if you've invested, you will actually see the number fluctuating live in seconds. It gives you an idea that yes, this number keeps on changing based on whatever interaction I do on this product. Now, do you guys know any examples of products that do it very well? There is another social media product that you see around you that does it. Okay, this example actually I want to give like Twitter. If you ever catch someone like one of these big guys tweet live, like let's say if you see uh, Kunal Shah's tweet just posted, like you should just check out that tweet. Okay, every second that number of likes, retweets, it just keeps flipping live as you're looking at it. And that kind of gives you an idea that what this is getting that kind of attention. It's moving up. Even your other
Definitely.
platforms like Grow, in I think the previous versions used
Mhm.
to have this thing where your money every time you open it grows from zero to at that number, and that's a pretty great dopamine hit. Like the moment you see that, you're like, yes, my money is growing. And I mean, say 10 rupees bada hoga, but you're like, yes, that zero to whatever amount it grows gives you that vibe. Yes, this is good.
Absolutely. I think it's not
COVID numbers
exactly
on
linked to
Google,
numbers.
savage.
But I also see when, you know, in your Apple Watch, you do that whole breathing activity, even in a lot of mindful apps. It's not directly to do with numbers, but then even they keep changing in terms of value to keep you hooked in that breathing and breathing out activity for that duration of time.
That is true. I think, yeah, I think steps is something again very volatile. Like as you keep moving it, like I
Yeah.
have never really measured steps. So like Apple Watch, like, soon, bro, soon. Good times are coming. Okay. The next thing is masking. Now, masking is basically this strategic revealing and concealing of UI part elements while they still stay identifiable. Now, example of something that you see around every single day. When you upload pictures on, let's say, Facebook or Instagram, you always upload square pictures, right? Or rectangular, whatever shape. But every time it has to show next to your post, it will always show a circle. Now, that is one of the best examples of masking. They take your picture, they put it in a circle, and they show it everywhere. And yet, every time you see it, you'll understand this is yours because it still stays identifiable. The same picture, when you tap, it will take you to that, see this picture and it will show you in a square. And I think this is the most used example of how motion works. If you have, like, for this example that you're seeing right here, the most similar example of this is when how Uber tests your are you wearing a mask or not while interaction. They have a flow for it. The moment you see it, it will put your face in a circle, scan it, and then tell you yes, you're wearing a mask or not. So yeah. Then comes overlay. Now overlay basically happens for 2D space. It has usually doesn't have any depth or z-axis. It only works on x and y-axis. Now these overlays, they create an illusion of foreground and background, and they allow certain elements to be hidden or revealed based on what the user needs or how he wants to interact with it. Now, any examples of this that you guys have seen? That is right, Gmail does it.
I've seen this in a lot
Bumble.
of reading apps and, apps like Grow, etc., where you can save it to your watch list, and even reading apps where you can bookmark them, and even emails where you can archive them directly.
It's actually funny because at one point we used to call these super user interactions, which
Yeah,
meant that these interactions are not something that, normal people discover because
yeah,
it's
directly, yes.
literally something that is, hard to find. But this one gesture based interaction, this whole swiping on cards and then revealing certain options, for some reason has just worked out so well because I don't know if people have noticed, but WhatsApp has it. You should try doing this on WhatsApp.
Absolutely.
And not a lot of people will come across this because there is no way of knowing that it exists. Because then you will have to do it on every product that you use, and like maybe इसमें होता है इसमें नहीं होता, right? Because it's not a
Right.
given thing in every product. But it's just amazing how it's coming as a very usable super user interaction. Like more and more people are getting to know about it, and I think that's how most of these things work. When everyone gets to know about it, it's no longer a super user interaction. It becomes a normal norm of what you would do in your product, like a three dot or a menu button and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think definitely a lot of every single app from our social media to I think our official applications all the way to our fintech applications across domains, things applications are just picking this up.
That is true. I mean, I honestly didn't know about this. I saw my mom doing it. So I was like, what the
Oh,
fuck?
really?
She's like, yeah, I do this. This message goes. I was like, what?
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes you just need self reflection on stuff like this. But yeah. Okay, then comes cloning. Uh, Now, UI elements always need a very clear point of origin. that links the element to something that's already on screen. Because elements just can't burst into and out of existence from nowhere. It needs to come from somewhere. Now, some examples in real life, right? Now, this drop down, every time you press on that drop down, suddenly there is like a hawa se nikal ke ek box aata hai jiske andar there are maybe three more options. Every time you tap on those three dots, suddenly there's another box that appears out of nowhere or a thing that slides from a corner. Like all of these things are very dependent on motion design for their existence, because what we are trying to say is that what, this is a small lever that you pull, and when you do this something will happen. But even to get that into reality, you need to understand that how motion kind of made few of these things possible. Because if you look at it screen by screen, there is no way of understanding how clicking on a button will lead to a sudden box appearing out of nowhere. Something like your expand or collapse works the same way. You tap on something, suddenly the interface will stretch itself into more information and then kind of go back to the same place, right? Next comes obscuration. Now, it is nothing as difficult to what the word looks like itself. It basically means it's like a frosted glass door. There is a world behind it. You know it because you can see through it. You can't exactly see through it, but you know there's some things behind it. But it requires an interaction to reveal it. That is, for in this case, opening that door itself, right? Now, in your interface, something like this also happens very similarly, right? Something as good as uh, when you tap on something, a bottom sheet appears and it overlays the background. In this example, that's what's happening, right? You tap somewhere, suddenly there's a black overlay, there's a dialog box that appears on top of it. You answer a couple of things and it goes away. Your certain apps which have your sensitive content, every time you tap on it, uh, you enter the app, it will somehow Gaussian blur the whole thing, and it will say enter your password first before I can show you the information that's behind it. That is another way how motion principle works in terms of usability. Next is parallax. Now, parallax is basically two UI elements that move at the same time but at different speeds. Now, this usually establishes hierarchy in terms of these elements, like something that is much more faster than in the foreground is interactive, and the non-interactive part will be much more slower in terms of it moving and will stay behind in the background. Now, do you guys know any examples of what you have where you have seen this parallax in apps? I recently saw it and I loved how it looked.
I think
Okay,
I'm
I don't
just
know. I don't
facing
think.
a delay.
I think parallax is something not a lot of apps have experimented in. But if you guys get time, definitely check out Ultra Human. They have a beautiful app design. The design team is, I think, the core design team is from France itself. It's a startup by an Indian founder, but the design team sits in France, and they create beautiful experiences. But just check out the scroll on their I think this yeah on one of the tabs, just check out the scroll. They have images and they have text on it, but as you scroll the parallax, it just looks so beautiful because they have amazing typography that has happened on each of those templates. But yeah, definitely check it out. Next is dimensionality. Now, what dimension looks like is basically UI elements have multiple interactive sides, just like how objects in the physical world, they appear as if they can either be folded or they can be flipped or they can be floating on something or they could be bestowed upon by realistic depth properties. The same way, these properties can be added to real UI elements as well. Any examples of it that you've seen?
I'm trying to think of some examples myself. I have seen them in a lot of places, but can't really point a finger out right now. Yes, I think Google Books, definitely a great example.
I saw this on Apple Books where
Mm-hmm.
when you flip a page, you should try like you can try the top corner of it, and as the page
Ah,
flips, you can see the ink imprint on the backside as well in the opposite.
right.
This thing like they've got such tiny details right. It's just amazing how they do this, and you can flip the page right from the middle at the bottom from one of the corners. It's beautifully done.
I
But in other
absolutely remember
examples,
that interaction that you just mentioned, and I remember doing it for the first time, and I was just playing around with it for like the next 2 minutes just to see when the text disappears and when it appears back.
yeah, I think these are a few things that I think that bring art and design so close to each other that you realize that, you know what, someone really took out sweet time to make such small details possible, because there is a certain crowd or a community part in design which will come like, no, design it not how it looks, at how it functions, and then like page flip karna है ना flip कर दो क्या जरूरत है इस सब चीजों की. But that's the thing, like people who can appreciate art and who can appreciate, you know, those small work that is put in, I think that's what makes products stand out from everything that exists outside.
Absolutely. Like it
uh,
said, that aha
let's just,
moment.
yep, dolly and zoom, right? Now these, both of these actually, they just let users travel through the UI elements spatially, or they can help you increase and reveal greater levels of detail, right? Now, Dolly, to give an example, is like holding a camera in your hand and walking towards a building. And Zoom is standing where you are and then trying to zoom at it through your camera. Now, both are very different in terms of how it gets you inside a product. But okay, let's take a real life example. Have you guys seen Google Street View? It actually uses AR and shows you arrows of where to move next, how to go there. It actually sticks to the surface that you see in front of you, versus something like maps, which simply will tell you as you zoom into it that, you know what, this is where the location, this is where you are. So Dolly is like you are in the interface itself and you're walking inside of it, whereas Zoom is simply detailing, zooming on a dress to understand if it is a drop shoulder or if it's a normal shoulder. Now, this is pretty much it in terms of principles, you know. Now, all of these together, they help us establish that yes, motion is communication, it's design. And if these principles are upheld in your designs, even the saddest UI elements can turn into the most sophisticated agents of human communication. But if you ignore them, if this motion that you integrate in your products embodies characteristics that cannot be found in the natural world, there is no amount of aesthetic splendor that can overcome the results. In short, get this right. Like these 12 principles, understand them. They are very easy. They are very easy to actually integrate in your products. And they're very basic. They exist around us every single day as we see them. You just have to take them at the most fundamental level and apply them to your products. And the last advice, most in Mintra, that I would share with you guys is always be Nutella. Like, have you guys ever tried Nutella? It's amazing how it works, right? तुम कितना भी खा लो उसमें saturation नहीं आता. Like you can try eating something else like a chocolate or a sweet. तुम एक दो खा लोगे फिर एक point के बाद you will like बस like और नहीं खाना. But with Nutella you're like, you know what? You'll have a spoon, you'll go do something, you'll come back for another spoon. You just don't end it, right? And I wanted to judge your motion design in a very similar way. Like there was one of these products I was checking out a few days back. I was seeing the onboarding, and I realized that everything was moving. Like literally तूफान आ गया था स्क्रीन पे. Like this person was like मुझे मोशन आता तो मैं तो मचा ही देगा उसमें. हेडिंग सब हेडिंग बटन भी नाच रहा है, कुछ और भी अलग अलग चीजें चल रही हैं. And you're like, it's very hard to comprehend because people need to understand that motion is like a spotlight. Like, if everything is static, the one thing in motion will grab your attention. And if everything is moving, the one thing that is static will grab your attention. You need to understand and you need to utilize motion the same way. And you have to develop this taste for the right balance of this motion. You have to find that sweet spot, just like Nutella. So always be Nutella. And this relationship of UX and motion is rapidly maturing. And all of you guys who are here are going to be playing a very important part in it because you are the people who will be creating the source of truth for everyone, right? Like, whatever you create today will be used by the next billion users around. And subconsciously, they will be Where's the last slide? It's right.
Um, Atul, I think we got like both of us got disconnected from the live stream in for the last couple of minutes, like post Nutella slide. So you might have to
What?
go back.
I was so passionate about what I was saying. Don't tell
Damn.
me that.
I think we definitely don't want you to, just conclude this stream.
Wait, what was the last thing that you guys heard?
It was a Nutella example, and I think just when you changed the slide, we lost you around that time.
Oh, did we talk about the whole UX and motion relationship maturing and everything?
Yes, at least I heard that. Guys, can you please tell me if you guys were there with us?
Yeah, because that was pretty much it. Uske baad, there was nothing, something that
Okay.
has to
Yeah,
repeat.
yeah. Finding the right balance was definitely the last thing that was there.
Yeah, yeah. Then we got it right. Great. We didn't crash too early.
Guys, you didn't miss much, so good.
I mean, definitely wouldn't want to repeat it. Imagine if Shah Rukh Khan had to repeat Chak De India wala inspirational speech twice because someone didn't hear it in their team. That would be so fun.
Damn. Okay, guys, feel
Awesome.
free to post your call, like questions in the chat. And while you're doing that, I'll ask some of my questions to Atul. So, first of all, it was, I think, a great presentation. There were so many things that I learned myself. Being a person who never really realized the potential that is there in motion design, this session definitely helped me learn a lot. And I'm pretty sure all of you guys have learned something new today and picked up something new apart from the Nutella example, obviously. So, yeah, I really want to ask you, since we don't really talk much about good academics when talking to designers in general, right? But you have had an amazing and a fantastic academic record where, you were all in your rank one in your batch at NIFT. Congratulations on that. Let me ask you, how did you get inclined towards design so early on in life? Like, how did you even know that this is something that excites you?
Um, so I think one thing about so thanks for bringing that up. I think as a kid, I haven't bought a lot of such experiences to my parents. I think I came third in my class first, and uske baad, I think this was it. So yeah, that's the two points in life when my parents could say something like that. "Ki, our kid kind of scored." So I like to keep bringing it up with them again and again. But yeah, I think I wasn't really good at academics, to be honest. Like, I pretty much sucked 12 years of my life in school. Like, I was like that kid who would be in like 70, touching 80s or something like that. And one of the reasons I realized was I never really felt that strongly about anything that I was learning.
Mm-hmm.
And even in college, I think around the first year, nothing really clicked for me that well. But then graphic design came into the scene, and then it felt like, you know what?
This is more
Yes,
my thing.
this kind of, yeah, this kind of, I mean, you can vibe with it, experimenting. And honestly, I look at those designs. Luckily, I had a Google Drive back then, so I just used to put everything there. So I look at it and I'm like, shit, I've come a long way, and thank God I didn't use those fonts ever again in my life. But I think it's very human how these things work. You invest your time and energy into something, and when it starts giving results, and when it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't happen very often for you, you get addicted to that thing. It's a feeling that, whatever you put in, you get back.
Right.
And I think, yeah, that kind of clicked. And I think I've worked a lot on things in my life which felt like work, but I think design was the only thing where every minute, every second spent, even till now, doesn't feel like work. It's still interesting. Like even right now, I'm rendering a extended reality experience in the background as my machine is crying for help. But that's the thing. Like when you find something that doesn't feel like work, it's just enjoyment, and it also is something that kind of can help you on your bread and some pizzas over time. I think that is when you start investing into it. I think design was that for me. It was so much fun. Yeah, I'm grateful that it happened to me as well.
Right, right. That's definitely exciting. So I think your day is pretty much a couple of hours that is full of enjoyment, fun, and just doing what you love, right?
I mean, sadly, it takes much more than those hours. I think I would say couple of hours of sleep, but yeah, rest of the day goes around here and there, and I think yeah, it's mostly
Right.
that. It's too huge. Like I find very funny when people have questions like, "Do designers need to also learn how to code?" And I'm like, "Shit, design itself is so vast. I'm not like people are not able to
Right.
cover it in even so many years. Imagine getting something else on their plate as well. I'm like, that's whole another world. Like development.
Absolutely.
I mean, I, I don't think I even have the balls to ever try that.
Okay, so I am really excited and really curious to know about the fact that at what point of time did you really realize that motion design was something, like a particular field that you really loved, or you really wanted this to be something where you explore quite a lot of stuff.
So I think the example that we started with in terms of visual storytelling, I think it's a point in every creator's vision where it turns like, what, this is what I imagine and this is how it
Mhm.
would look like. And
Mhm.
mostly it's very easy when you're thinking in terms of static and it comes out on papers of you. Like when I tell someone, what, so basically the user will click here and then this will happen. It's very easy to show when you're thinking in static terms and you can show it on paper. But when it comes like, what, when the user clicks this and then this happens and the thing turns into
Right.
this, and then it's like, oh wow, show, and then you're like, wo nahi aata. But imagine, and then that's the point of thing, right? When I say big brown castle, I have something in my mind, and you have another big brown castle in your mind, but it's not the same. There is no way of us imagining the same thing. And I think that was something that pushed, what, I'm not able to get this visualization across. And not everyone is that visual, right? Maybe a designer and a designer can imagine in a similar way, but someone who
Absolutely.
has no background, like the moment I'm talking to my tech head, I'm like, dude, visualize it. Like, dude, I don't have time for that. Show me how it looks. And
Exactly.
I think more is something that really helps you with that. It's something I think every designer should have in their arsenal where they need not have to be in a situation where you have something in mind but you can't represent it to someone. I think that's a
Mhm.
very bad place to be in. Don't ever be there. It's not even bad, it's just a sad place to be in, that you need someone else to express you.
Right, definitely. And I think this is one thing when a lot of people get started in design, this is something we all face where, we're like, aisa banana, aisa banana, but they're like, okay, but how? What does it look like? Even the developer comes walking to you and be like, kaise karna hai? Just show me, like, just show me visually. That is super interesting. But having said that, I am really curious to again ask you, what was the first thing that you created, that was your, let's say, first motion design or like interaction design that you look back at?
So I was in college around second year, so I started working since I was in second year of my college, and there was this client, and that time I was just purely graphic design. I had this illustration, and it had a character, uh, and I was telling him like, you know what, this character is trying to express this, and we were basically a co-living space product, which could tell that, you know what, because you're a part of this community, you can order from these partner restaurants and stuff like that. And as I was telling him this, I wanted to like, I wanted to make food kind of float around and him being hungry and just words kind of animating. And the static visuals just were not doing justice with that idea. And then I took a Kulhadi and marveled in my own pair. I was like, you know what? Let me figure this out. So I went on YouTube. I started learning how to move stuff. Then I
Wow.
think, yeah, and I think that is when it started. I realized, like, initially when I started, so motion came to me in a very organic manner. I
Mm-hmm.
never wanted to do a course and learn everything. I just wanted to move that hand. I had a very small ask from life. Tell me, how do I move this? And it took me a couple of hours to figure it out, couple of hours to get it right. And you realize that you did the most, and that's the best part about learning design itself. Like when you figure it out the first time, 6 months later, you realize that it was the most non-productive way of doing it. But you just did something by learning random different things. You did seven things right, but you got the end result right. And
Right.
I think it just looked so nice. You're like, you know what, I want to do this more. And next time, the client wasn't paying anymore. It was just like I just wanted to make things move. So you make them move all the way you can. It's like the first design that you make, and someone tells you gradients are amazing. You're like, yes, gradients are amazing. And everything in a design has a different gradient. It was something like that. Like I think I found all the wrong ways to move something till a
Mhm.
point I was mature enough to understand how to do this right. But I think that journey has its own sweet spot. Like
Right.
just amazing to be that person when you realize ki shit, such a long way. But again, like I would say, don't like me, be smart. If you can get a good source to learn everything without creating your own mistakes, learn from mine and someone else's. Don't do that. But yeah, this is how I did it. And I'm not someone who has a lot of attention span, so I can't read books and go through courses. So the normal way I learn things is I do something, it doesn't work out, then I be like, what the hell, you have to get this right, and eventually I get it right.
Mm-hmm. No, this definitely helped a lot of us. Like a lot of us people who are sitting in the chat here are learning from your journey, and it is definitely helpful. People like Ankur has said that your passion gave the thunder to internet and YouTube today. And we do have a couple of questions in the chat. So, like, Sai or say, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, so don't kill me. But they're basically asking, what tools do you use for motion design typically?
uh, After Effects mostly, because I think that's how I started with it. I tried my hamster principle, but actually the fundamentals are a bit different in terms of After Effects and principle. So when you have to, and honestly, motion is not even something that I do a lot. Like my main forte is product design. Motion is something that is just something additionally that I end up doing time to time again because I like it. But I think it's also like when you do it, you kind of understand its importance and why it's important to a product and why it needs to be integrated. So in our team, we have like really amazingly talented people who do this. There's Motion Smith, there's Motion Monk. Like these guys are like uh, epic at this whole thing. We have Rishabh in our team, like really brilliant people who are in motion. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think they have their. I mean, they are more into After Effects. But if it's more about prototyping, I think Protopie is a tool which is really amazing. But it's just so many tools that exist and so many things to learn that when
Right.
you know how to facilitate that experience that you want, learning two different software to do the same thing is something that you don't get a lot of motivation for, but that is just my flaw. I mean, if you can learn multiple tools, go ahead and do that. I usually end up sticking to After Effects because I think I want to do more of that, that bells and whistles and like, यहाँ से ये आएगा, वहाँ से वो आएगा, and all of that is usually not possible in prototyping tools. So yeah, After
Mhm.
Effects.
Right. I hope that definitely answers your question. And then Tejas also asked the question about, what are the apps that you think or the products that you think have the most amazing experiences till date?
I think Airbnb amazes me again and again. I think it's the most simplest product that they have made. They don't do anything out of the box or out of the, I mean, they do out of the box stuff. It's just like how you do something small, but you do it right. Like, how that mom's dal, like a lot of hotels make dal, but they don't get it right. These guys, they create experiences and get it right. Like in a world of Expedia and Booking.com, where which are very PM focused and which is all around, give them this data, this data, this data, and chunk out this discount and this mobile app discount. I mean, they have 100 different ways to trap you into a flow, whereas Airbnb just simply comes there and says, "Look at this house, isn't it beautiful?" And it just gets you there. Like these are some places where you feel like the interface itself is so seamless. Like it, I think if the product value is just these small pieces, their interfaces joins it so well in form of a story that it's amazing to look at it. Like the first picture that you see, like if you open Airbnb right now, it will have a huge ass picture or a huge ass illustration of something really beautiful. And all it says is, where do you want to go? Or I'm flexible, I want to do this, that. And open a booking.com where they're like, 7 different places you can go right now, is pay now discount, is pay 50% off, and you are early visitor. Like one space where people are trying to throw in different hoops to just get you in, and the other person just sits there and says, I'm beautiful, fuck you. Like I just love the balls
Right.
these guys have. And honestly, I mean, simple, white, bold interface and just beautifully done.
Absolutely,
And I
absolutely.
mean, when the founder is a designer, it reflects on the product.
Definitely. And that is a great advice, like you said, that some products are just doing those minor things so well that you don't really have to chase after people. It's the other way around. That's definitely well said. Now, with respect to the time, I'm just going to take two questions from the chat. One is by Menka. She says, at what point of ideation do you think about motion? Is it while designing the UI or, right while wireframing?
I think motion, again, is not an afterthought. I think it's just that, and again, it's like a great idea. It can literally come at any point in time in terms of ideation. And there's no point when you start thinking about motion. Like, whenever someone is telling you a problem, like, what, I want to create a product which gathers people nearby and helps them connect to each other. Now, when someone tells you that idea, the first, and that is what happens when you're a visual person. Like, the moment someone tells you something, your brain starts manifesting that into something that it can represent to you in a way, right? Some people just hear words and the words keep floating. Other people, when people say words, it makes elements and they are binded together by some form of visual. When I hear a statement like this, what I see is like, a hub, and then there are people in form of bubbles and floating around, and then something that's tying them together, or a network that brings them together. Like when you see a visual like that, like motion is a part and parcel of it. You cannot imagine motion in a very different way. If the hub has to like find people around you, it will work as a radar that brings in people, and someone responds to it. The bubble will just come close to that. Like it's just how your brain functions. If you're visual, and if you know that motion is in your arsenal, you'll always end up thinking in those terms. It usually happens when something is not very close to your skill set. Your brain doesn't even want to think about it, and I think that is a limitation. I feel if there are people who consider themselves that, what, maybe UI and motion is not something that I'm good at, give it that importance, but bring in someone who can do it to bring that idea to justice. But really against people who go like, what, there's a segment which goes like, UI is the UX is like, legends do UX. peasants to UI. Well, like I think that is something that people need to grow above. Like, they don't understand that everything together makes an experience. There is no one part of it that makes it work or not. And great UI doesn't mean bad UX. I feel UX is implicit. It's like saying water is wet. It has to exist. It is not something like if I ask you to be in a race, you can't tell me कि हाँ मुझे चलना भी आता है. Like, no, वो implicit है. वो होना चाहिए. This is
Right.
something else. And I think the sad part is people keep on talking about UI and UX. No one really talks about the third brother interaction and motion itself. So I
Definitely.
think those conversations need to come up as well. So when you're a product designer, you're supposed to be someone who does all these three things well, or at least understand the importance of it.
Absolutely. And that is the reason why we are having you here today to bring that third pillar, to our product and design series and make a complete package when people are learning these things. Having said that, we have a question from a junior designer, Aditya, and he is asking about, how do you do the trade-offs in motion design, or rather, I'm interested in even understanding how do you work with constraints when it comes to motion design, because I'm sure there are quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there are, but the thing is, the constraints, like, again, like, I think uh, the people that I'm working with right now, like, let's say Rishabh, Motion Monk, Motion Smith, these guys are so epic. They like Lottie is something that is a way to actually bring your motion into products, right? Seamlessly in SVG animations. Now,
Right.
Lottie is more of a 2D tool. It cannot do everything that After Effects can do and can turn it into something that is an SVG animation. But these guys actually found a way to do stuff in 3D and then bring it into After Effects and then bringing it into Lottie. Like, I think
Wow.
in terms of restrictions, I mean, you have to be just that crafty person, and I think people like those always find a way. So, I mean, honestly, I thought that, yeah, Lottie is so limiting. It cannot have blur, it cannot have this. But then we had developers who would take that Lottie and then do the blur thing on the dev side, and they found a way to like mix and match some part of dev into some part of Lottie and bring out those experiences. So I think it's all about the kind of people you surround yourself with. When multiple people who are happy to push boundaries in what they do come together, I think limitations are the last thought. Right now, I feel like we haven't done everything that is possible in Lottie and putting out motion design in the product. So I haven't really actually felt a way कि shit ये करना था but हो नहीं सकता, because anything that I've felt that I've made, the developers or these guys have turned it into something that is usable. So I'm like, I don't even have that thought right now of how to figure that out. There's a lot that can be done to even think about things that can't be done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, definitely, because constraint happens to be a very important aspect in every single parameter when we're working at design. But this advice definitely goes a long way, mixing and matching everything and just coming up with the best that you can. Uh, Having said that, I think, Rohan, do we have time for one last question? Because we have a lot of them in the chat, or do you want to just.
No, go ahead for like take the last question. Sure.
We'll take another last question. Actually, we have a lot of questions for you, but I'm just taking this one last. So, this is by Sharan, and he's asking, when working on redesigning legacy enterprise products, like, you know, um, where the users are usually used to static interfaces, how do you really push for, subtle motion design, or even fight to realize the importance of motion design in these kind of interfaces?
I think there was a time back in the day when these products, which are enterprise products now, they were made in a way that the user never had a choice. Ki if I don't want to use it, fuck it, I'll use another one, because the whole company functions on it, right? So people didn't have a choice, and people still don't do. So, but you need to understand that the same person who's using an enterprise product right now also uses Instagram, also uses Facebook. So he is not devoid of the fact that good interfaces exist. When he's used to using a Swiggy to order food, grow to invest money and let's say a cult fit to book a gym session, this person
Mhm.
understands that good interaction and good experience exists. And then when he has to come back to your product, which I know we all have that at our workplace, that one tax submission interface which everyone hates. And you can see that, fuck, this makes no sense. Why is it put this way? Like, we know that because the way that we have moved into the product field, everyone understands what a good experience and bad experience is. So I don't think you have to fight for it anymore. I think Kalko, if you give someone a good experience in an enterprise software, he's never gonna say like, "Oh no, don't do that." I think it's all about finding the right person to educate it with and being in the right position of power. Like PMs will always push for features over making something that exists better. Enterprise feature doesn't have those complications like, hey, if people don't like it, people will not use it. They know people will still use it. But I think this is where you come into picture. You say that, you know what, it's okay if people are being forced to use it, but they don't have to hate it while they're using it. Let's make something that even these guys can love while they use it, because that's going to go a long way. Because people will notice that, you know what, this is a good interface. Next place that we go, they will always root for it, that, you know what, our last place had this good interface, why don't we have it here as well? We had a good experience. And I think products like Stripe and Mixpanel are breaking those barriers. These are big enterprise softwares, but you should look at the way it's made. Something like Razorpay was supposed to be a huge enterprise product, but the way they make their design team function and the way they have established the design team is something great. And I can assure you that if you look at their products, enterprise products, it will be designed in the same fashion that is commendable. So yeah, I think gone are the days when people could justify not so great experiences by being like, we are enterprise software. I think no matter what kind of industry you're working with, good experience is implicit. There is no way of hiding from it. And if there are reasons to fight for it, maybe you're in the wrong company. I think maybe it's time to switch to a better space where design is given that value and importance. Because yeah, I mean, you need to pick your fights. You can't. You can solve problems. You can't solve people. So
That was definitely a great, conclusion advice because, yes, I completely agree with you that we really need to fight for the right designs. And having, worked in enterprise solutions and B2B solutions, I think sometimes it becomes extremely important to emphasize on the importance because most of the time, we end up going with the argument, like leaving the argument saying that okay, since people are not on board with it, let's just chuck it and move on and just like continue with what we are working on and what the highlights are. But maybe taking that extra step sometimes and making them realize what importance or impact it can create in the longer run, that I think definitely helps even in B2B and enterprise. So I'm so thankful for having you and hosting you in this session because I think we've just had great comments, compliments, questions. Everything is just overflowing with excitement in this session. People have learned a lot. They're just going crazy about this session, and I'm so happy that we had you. Over to you, Rohan.
thanks for hearing me, people, and thanks for you guys having me here.
Thank you, Rakshita. Thank you so much. I'll see you backstage. Hey guys, can we have a huge round of applause or comments for Atul? What you learned? What was the highlight of the session? What is the one key takeaway you are taking from this session in the chat? I think they're going to take 10 seconds to respond, but I think some comments will get. So I don't know if you saw, we got very good comments in the chat, and that was really helpful for the people. Okay, yeah. So I think you can see the chat over here on the big screen.
Oh, yep. Okay,
Yeah.
they're nice comments. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, we will. So I think this will keep coming. And thank you so much, Atul. Thank you so much for making time and talking to us. And we really learned a lot. One thing that I want to point out is the way you actually took us through the whole presentation was very very warm, and it was very insightful in a way that you kept talking to the people and their experiences, their examples, and that is something people really appreciated in the chat as well. Thank you so much, Atul. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for doing this, and we hope to see you again in a lot of our sessions and share your knowledge with the community.
Thanks, man. It was really nice. I think this was Sunday done well. Thank you so much for having me over. And yep, best of luck for everyone who's entering the industry, new designers. Looking forward to having you guys over. And I think this is a great initiative, Rohan. Keep doing this more.
Thank you, man. And you should actually
Yeah.
see there is a one chat that actually said this session made my day, and all thanks to you for that. Awesome.
Thank you so much, guys.
Okay,
Take care.
cool.
Bye bye.
I'll see you. I'll see you next time, Atul. Thank you. Okay. Oh, sure. Hey guys, if you're still here, I want you to get something extra from this session. I want to give you a chance to learn better and make your life a little better as a designer. So we have a little something for you. You want to guess what it is? In the chat, what do you think? I have something very special for you guys in the chat. If you guys know what I'm talking about. Any guesses? Okay. I have very special something for you. Ooh, okay. So I think a few people have guessed it already. So I don't want you to keep waiting. And we will make sure that you get the best. So as you guys know, we recently crossed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and this is super awesome. And we want you to share this happiness with us. So we are actually launching our mega giveaway today. Are you excited about it? In the chat if you are excited about listening to the what we have in the store for you as a giveaway. You can even guess what so okay, let me ask you a question. So the question is, what are the things that that will help you in your design journey going forward? What are the things that is going to help you with your design journey going forward? Get more efficient, maybe learn a skill. What are the things? Okay, mentorship, absolutely. Design assets, Shadika invitation, iMac, uh, Adobe licenses. What else? Mentors, absolutely. What else? A good printer and iMac. Books. Oh, amazing. So let me share with you what do I have. Okay, cool. So let me just share my screen. Okay. Let me know if you are able to see my screen. Can you see my screen? Awesome. So let's get into this. So as we have crossed 1,000+ subscribers, and if you guys haven't subscribed, I'll request you to subscribe to the channel. We will keep bringing you more awesome designers from the industry and more awesome content for you guys. We have crossed 1,000+ subscribers, so we thought shouldn't we give back something? After all, we are a community. We have come together in times of COVID and helped the NGOs, and you guys have been with us for the longest time. So we are launching this mega giveaway for you guys, where you can win up to 30,000 rupees plus of rewards. Are you guys excited? Are you guys excited about this? Is this exciting? So the first prize that we have for you guys is a full year, 1 year membership of Skillshare. Like, this is the first prize that you're going to get. You will get one entire year of Skillshare membership where you can learn from thousands of courses from the best people in working in the industry, and you can take courses, as many courses as you want on Skillshare. Is this something that you want? Okay, cool, cool, cool. Awesome. I can see the chats coming in. Number two, it's like, when you are working and you want to focus, one thing that is so underrated actually, and so needed to the people is a very good headphone with good bass and very good build quality. One such headphones is Leaf Best 2. Do you want this? Okay. Is this going to help you? Awesome. And a designer can't be considered a designer if he's not passionate about good cup of coffee. So we are giving you a good coffee from Blue Tokai, one of my favorite brands. You can literally find me on one of their outlets every month, 3-4 times. So you can get good coffee, and there is fourth price again, the same coffee that you can get. You can also get one of the partners in this giveaway is Rahi. They actually provide therapy sessions, so they have given us 3 free therapy sessions that you guys can avail and talk to some amazing therapists about your life. And there are 3 of them. So fifth, sixth, and seventh prize is Rahi, and there are 8 winners who are going to get one book each from these books. You can choose the one you want. So we have made sure that if you have one of these, you don't end up getting the same. You can take the other one. All of these books I have read personally. All of them are in my personal collection, but you're going to get the new one delivered at your home. Is this exciting? Is this exciting? Are you interested in this? Okay, cool, amazing. And there are a bunch more, right? And we have a session coming up with Shubhangi from the LinkedIn Trust team next Sunday, and we are going to drop some more cool prizes in that session as well. So do join the stream with Shubhangi, and we'll be adding almost same amount of more goodies for the same giveaway, which is going to be there. And this is going to be the second drop that we do. So how can you participate in this? So first of all, are you excited about this? Do you want to participate in this? Do you want to get any of the giveaways? What giveaway are you most excited by? Just put it in the chat. Which giveaway do you want? Coffee, books, Skillshare, or okay, cool. So we are going to do the second drop on 30th Jan, and if you want to participate, do you want to participate in this? Uh, okay, I see a bunch of yeses. Okay, so head to designsundays.in/giveaway and just do a few small things, and you can participate in the giveaway. I'm just going to take you through the interface once so that you are able to do it as quickly as possible, because I want more people to win. Like 35 people are going to win these prizes, and I want you to be one of them. And I want you to, and you'll get a shout out from us. Obviously, you will be invited on the chat and on the live stream as well. So that is there. Um, and the and we are going to run this for 2 weeks. So we have a live session planned, the same kind of live session planned for 30th of Jan as well, and that's where we are going to announce the winners. Is this exciting? Do you want to know what do you have to do in the giveaway? Awesome, cool. So I'm just gonna take you guys through the uh, the process once, and then you guys can take it from there. Okay, I can't find the link. Can somebody help me with it? Okay, I think we lost the link. Oh, we got it. We got it. We got it. So this is the link. That's where you have to go. I'm just going to take you through the process of going about the whole thing myself as well. Okay, I'm just sharing my screen so that you all can see. So let's suppose, okay, I'm just going to share my screen. So this is what it looks like when once you land here. You can actually continue using Facebook, or you can enter your email. For example, mine is rohan@designsundays.in. My name is Rohan. You can enter this. Okay, and so already for 43 people are already in, and they have started earning the points. You have to do a very simple thing. You have to take the link and get more people to sign up for this giveaway, share it on your social media, share it with people. And there are a few small tasks that are here, with respect to the points that you're going to get for it. The people who rank the highest are going to get the points. There is a person who actually already got 500 points, so that's crazy. But it's just a matter of time. You can also get it. You can get as many points as you want. So some of these things, such as subscribing to our YouTube channel. If you have already done some of these, just click on it and just enter whatever things that is asked inside. And some of these things going to be a repeated thing on a daily basis. For example, if you talk about the comment on 2 YouTube videos that we have posted on the channel, this gets renewed every 24 hours, so that if you have completed this step right now, you can actually come back to it and do it again. And this is going to be this ends in 13 days. As the clock is ticking, and I want to see you all inside this. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. I hope this was helpful. Was the session helpful, or are you happy with the giveaway? Okay, just let me know in the chat if you think this was a great session and this is a great giveaway. Awesome. Cool, cool. Thank you, Ranesh. Thank you, Anmol. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around for the giveaway. I'll see you next Sunday on the live stream where we'll be dropping bunch more of the giveaways, where we'll be providing more free things for you guys. And and do join on 30th. We have got two more power packed speakers. Shubhangi is going to do on 23rd of January. Shubhangi is going to talk about how do you build trust in your products, which is like something that a lot of product misses, and it's going to be a defining factor for you guys. And this is the way to get started. So 23rd of January, Shubhangi, and on 30th we have someone who has got a lot of things. This is going to be a slightly different kind of live. It is going to be an AMA, and we are so looking forward to seeing you over there. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much.